Hi, Raghu. Welcome. Today, we're going to focus on online learning and in particular, your experience around teaching in the online environment. So I know that you have extensive experience teaching both face-to-face and online. What would you consider would be the biggest advantage to teaching in the online environment over the face-to-face?
Okay, I think there are many different advantages, but you said what is the biggest advantage? So I think the biggest advantage is it forces you to flip the classroom in a very effective way. So I think, there's a lot of discussion about flipping the classroom, and we try to do that in the face-to-face environment. But in all my years in the face-to-face environment, I've never really succeeded in doing that. And I think the biggest advantage in the online environment is it forces you to flip the classroom and the students are on board with it. And so it really is a very effective way to, especially with the quantitative materials I teach, to sort of effectively deliver that, especially since different students have different learning speeds. And by flipping the classroom, which you're forced to in this online environment, I found it is really helpful with teaching quantitative material.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So in addition to flipping the classroom, what's something that you have enjoyed about teaching online?
I think because of the online environment, just the amount of resources that are available, I just found that it made access to the course materials much more equitable to all of the students. And so, these things aren't things you think about in the online, in the face-to-face environment. The online environment, the thing that I liked was, one, I didn't have to repeatedly teach the same thing to multiple students because, we posted these office hours. And as I said before, I felt it made access to the course materials more, not course material, but course resources. Everyone has access to everything, because even if you can't make it to a particular thing, you can go watch the recording.
So as you start to teach online, right, what was a difficulty that you experienced teaching online, and how did you navigate that?
I think the first challenge I faced was figuring out how do you take what you have and break it up into individual components, 10, 15-minute components that they can, how should I say, digest in one piece. Then they can take a break, they can come back and do the next thing. Of course, the good student might just plow through it like a regular class, but so it was a challenge at first trying to figure out how you actually look at your class and say, what are the key things I want, and how do I deliver this in, 2 or 3 succinct modules.
What advice would you give to a first-time instructor teaching online?
My advice would be to figure out what it is. You got to look at your teaching materials each week and figure out what is the essence of what you're trying to do that week. Try to throw out all of the extra stuff. As faculty members, we want to teach them all of the tricks, and you got to sort of step away from that and say, okay, what is the key concept I want to deliver, and how can I do that in the simplest way possible? What I try to do is, if you're able to identify that, I would say try to make that the first thing that they learn and figure out an effective way, to deliver that prior to them coming to the classroom. You want to use your classroom time to do some kind of interactive exercise. Otherwise, believe me, you're going to lose them. If you're going to lecture, they have screens. They're going to do other things. I've seen. I have a child who's an undergraduate at Maryland, so I've seen what happens in their Zoom classes. I have kids in public school who have had to have their classes online. So unless your classroom time is something that forces them to interact, you are going to lose them. So you have to figure out what that activity is. What we generally did, and I use the word we because my course has multiple sections, so there were other instructors, although I designed the class, but we generally tried to have cases that built upon those materials that they had to have done before they came to class, the essence of what are we going to do this week. So in the class, we had a case that built upon that essence, and we forced, through the chat box or occasionally calling on students, we had that interaction.
Raghu, thank you so much for your time today. I have enjoyed our chat.
Likewise, Jen, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. And I really hope that I've been able to, that I can help other faculty members by sharing my experiences with my online course. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for OTL for involving me in this project. Thank you.